You guys seem determined that I have my ultimate collection of Bretonians finished off. So much so that on 2 separate occasions now, people have reached out to me about miniatures that have been missing from my collection and wanting them to send them to me. So Jules Le Jongleur, which is a beautiful character from, I think, I don't know, 3rd edition of World Warhammer. And he comes with the kind of bard riding the pretend horse. And then there's obviously another character. I had the guy with the pretend horse. And I talked about wanting to get my hands on Jules Le Jongleur, so I could attach those 2 characters together where they belong. They were sold together, they were deployed together, they go together. Someone reached out and obviously gave that model to me, which is very kind of them. And then it has happened once again. I talked about wanting to get my hands on the Robin Hood characters that they released for the Bretonian army. Once again, all the way back then, kind of 3rd, 4th edition, 2nd, 3rd edition of World Warhammer. And someone reached out and said that they had them in their collection since that time, never done anything with them, and they're wondering if they could send them to me to make a video for. So that's what I have done today. I have all 3 of these characters, the Robin Hood, the Little John, and the Friar Tuck style character ready to be painted. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. Before I get into that, I just want to say, get all that other stuff out of the way, which is, of course, if you're enjoying this video, please think about giving the video a like, making sure that you comment below if you have any questions or anything you want to see, and make sure that you're subscribed. These things cost you nothing. They're free, but they make a huge difference as to how many people see my videos and how quickly this channel grows. If you want to help me out, please do think about that. If you want to take it a step further, help progress the channel to bigger and better heights, or you just want to keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, then please do think about joining up on Patreon, linked below, or becoming a YouTube channel member. If you also buy a boatload of Warhammer and are sick of spending a fortune on it, I have links below for Underworld Gaming if you're in Ireland, Element Games if you're in the United Kingdom, and My Hobby Place if you're not in those 2 places but still inside of Europe. They will take you to these awesome online resellers. You can save yourself kind of 15-20% on your purchases, and there'll be a nice little kickback to the channel as well. So okay, that's all that stuff out of the way. We can now just dive in and get these awesome models painted up. So let's do that. Okay, so these are the awesome Robin Hood-esque miniatures from Warhammer The Old World. They're actually called Bertrand the Brigand and the Bowmen of Bergerac. I can't say the names. The names are all awful in these descriptions and all the information I found online. But basically you have Robin Hood, you have Little John, and you have Friar Tuck characters. They're inspired by those characters. These are models that I've wanted in my collection for such a long time. So to the very kind person who sent me these to paint up, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I didn't know whether you wanted your name mentioned or anything like that in the video. If you want to drop a comment below saying, it was me, I sent them, thank you very much for painting up or whatever, I will pin that comment to the top so everyone can thank you for that. So from me, a big thank you. And I'm very, very pleased to finally have these models in my Bretonian collection ready to be painted up and hopefully used. I needed a set of those metal archers that Games Workshop brought back, so I'm going to buy a set of them, paint them up to match, and then use them in this awesome like peasant archer squad. I think it'll be really cool. So let us go through some of the lore and background of this awesome character. It is said that Bertrand, now known as the Brigand, was originally a poor peasant in the feudal domain of Bergerac. I can't say that name for the life of me. In the deeply forested heartland of Bretonia. All was well until the old baron went off on a grail quest and never returned. This was a long time ago. While the old baron was away, orcs came out of the forest and ravaged the entire domain. The situation for the peasants was increasingly desperate. By all traditions of Bretonian chivalry, a knight-errant should have been called for to rid the domain of the orcs and thereby prove himself worthy to succeed the old baron. It was the duty of the baronesses to send out her son to win his spurs, or failing that, offer the hand of her daughter to any knight who proved himself worthy of domain by feat of arms. The baron's son was generally feared and disliked for his cruelty and disdain for the peasants. As well as this, he showed nothing but cowardice in the face of the orcs and showed no inclination to go forth as a knight-errant to secure his father's lands. So just to kind of reiterate that piece of the lore, the old baron went off on a grail quest. He unfortunately he failed his quest and never returned, and the leadership wasn't there to hold his particular kingdom in Bretonia together. It all kind of fell to pieces. And then it continues with everyone in the village thought that the brave and handsome plowman, Bertrand, would be the one to save them. It was rumored that even the baron's daughter favored Bertrand, but her wicked brother had imprisoned her within a tower. Every day, her face could be seen gazing down from the arrow slits towards the muddy fields where Bertrand ploughed his ox team. Meanwhile, the orcs pillaged the land. So obviously Bertrand the Brave could not let this continue, so what did he do? Bertrand soon assumed the leadership of the peasants. While the nobles shut themselves in the castles, he organised the villagers. They practiced archery every day until they were all marksmen. Bertrand made sure that every approach to the village was watched, and soon the orc raiders were being driven off empty-handed. Sometimes they were even pursued into the forest. The villagers fell on the orcs as they fled. However, instead of recognising Bertrand's courage, the Baron's son, encouraged by the Baroness, demanded higher tithes and feudal dues from the peasants. Soon all the surplus that had been saved from the perdition of the orcs had been frittered away by the extravagance of the old Baron's untrustworthy heirs. Rumours began to spread among the villages that the old Baron had not really disappeared on a quest, but had been poisoned by the Baroness, who was thought to be a sorceress. Whatever evil was lurking in the castle of Bergerac, now known far and wide as Chateau Mal, it soon brought about the doom of all those who'd invoked it. One day, the villagers awoke to hear plaintive cries for help coming from the tower, in which the Baron's daughter was imprisoned. The masonry of the castle could be seen cracking and crumbling around her. Then suddenly, against the dark skies, a huge and evil creature burst its way out of the shattered keep. Like a monster hatching from an egg. In its mouth were the blood-drenched carcasses of the Baroness and her son. Who knows what strange ritual they had been performing, but it had brought about their own doom. Hearing the cries of the Baron's daughter, the creature, which was over 100 feet tall, with a single red glowing eye and huge flapping wings, smelt more blood. It clawed upon the tiled roof of the tower and plucked out the terrified damsel. Just as the vile beast was about to swallow this delicious morsel, an arrow dispatched from Bertrand's bow struck the monster in its eye. The monster reeled and dropped the damsel, who was caught in the arms of Bertrand's faithful companion, Hugo Le Petit, which of course is the famed character. While the monster thrashed about, knocking blocks from the battlement and unable to struggle out of the shell of the keep, Bertrand shot burning arrows into the castle. Soon the ruin was ablaze, and the dreadful creature was consumed in the flames. Later, the peasants heaped upon rubble over bones and made a mound where the castle had once been. There was now no castle in Bergerac, and no Baron. The Baron's daughter declared that Bertrand's feat of arms was a worthy errand, as was her right as a noblewoman, and they wed. However, there was no castle for Bertrand to hold, and the entire domain was surrounded by orcs. There was no way that Bertrand could ever be properly recognised as a knight. Instead, Bertrand led the peasants away from the cursed village, taking a few relics from the Grail Chapel with them. So, with this backstory out of the way of where he came from, it now leads us on to what he is doing now, and Bertrand the Brigand. Bertrand had no desire to push his claim and become a knight, nor did he wish to join the ranks of nobility, and his followers were thoroughly fed up with paying feudal dues. They liked the idea of keeping everything they grew to themselves. If Bertrand took the vow of chivalry, he would also have to forsake his beloved longbow as a dishonourable weapon, and that was something he would never do. Instead, Bertrand and his folk took to wandering through the wilderness regions of Bretonia, righting wrongs and sticking up for the peasants, whenever the need be. Most often this meant fighting against raiders and orcs, but sometimes there's a corrupt baron or knight lacking in honour who needs to be defeated. As for the nobility of Bretonia, roughly half of them think that Bertrand is a hero, the rest think he is a scoundrel and an outlaw. It is known that the King Mediocre greatly desires to meet him, but he has not divulged whether he intends to reward or punish him. Knight-errants are sometimes sent to find Bertrand, but the wily brigand keeps out of their way. Those barons and dukes who favour Bertrand can always count on his support in times of need. Suddenly, out of the forest comes Bertrand and the Bowmen of Bergerac. He never asks for much reward, except for some barrels of the Lord's best vintage wine for Gueux et le Gros, and requires that whatever lord he fights for lets his peasants off any feudal dues for an entire year. Thus, Bertrand is a very popular man amongst the common folks of Bretonia. And then just a very, very quick bit of information about the two extra characters that go with them. So, Hugo Le Petit is known for his immense size and great strength. He is Bertrand's right-hand man and always fights with a huge staff and shoots with an enormous longbow, the arrows of which are like javelins. Guy Lagros is noted for his enormous girth, which is not unconnected to his considerable appetites for venison, meat pies, capons, and beer. Among other things, Guy carries a huge wine flagon slung over his back to refresh the bowmen in the midst of battle. There's enough to fill a serving per man, which makes the archers exceedingly merry and makes them immune to panic, but is not exceedingly good for their combat abilities. So that is all the information I have to share on these epic old school characters as of right now. Obviously, they're such characterful pieces. Sorry if I muddle up some of the names. Obviously, there's a lot of French twang to the information because obviously it's Bretonian, which is kind of French. So I do apologize for me stumbling over some of the words or information there. But hopefully you found it interesting and intriguing. It is one of the sad things that we unfortunately have lost with the release of the old world, is that technically these characters haven't even been born yet in the lore, because they basically went back over 100 years, or a couple of 100 years from the end times for the current old world setting, which is very cool. And obviously they'll give us new characters and stuff like that, but I really don't want to let these kind of characters go. I kind of just pretended to myself that we're kind of in and around the same time, and I deploy these characters. So I'll be using them as a squad of peasant archers. When I get them, I will add in some extra homebrew rules for, you know, what the flagon of wine, a one use item in the game, makes them automatically pass a panic or a break test, but I don't know, make some -1 BS for the next turn because they're a little bit drunk, so they're not quite as accurate with their bows. Something like that maybe would be a little bit of fun. And then obviously have a unique character for the champion, representing the Robin Hood character, someone who's fairly decent in a fight and fairly accurate with a bow, maybe with something like precision where you can pick out characters in the unit, stuff like that. And then obviously someone else who can accept challenges would be his glorious right hand man, Little John, and would be in there swinging that bow staff around and be quite a formidable character in the game. So like I said, I would just like to deploy quite a large Bretonian armies, have all your knights and stuff, all your blocks of peasants, but then having this skirmishing unit come off the flanks firing bows quite accurately and just being awesome and just kind of cool. So let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think these characters should be kind of left behind or forgotten about, or do you think it's cool to just add in some homebrew rules and get them involved with the more modern games of Warhammer the Old World? I would love to know your thoughts and feelings on this. As you can see, I am taking my time with these guys. I'm not particularly going for a painting lesson or like a tutorial video, because how many people actually have these guys left in their old backlogs to be painted up? I don't think there's that many of the people out there watching this video that's going to have these guys. If you do, I think it's about time you got them cleaned up and painted up. They deserve it. They've been in your pile of shame for far too long, and it's time to rectify that problem. I always have this thing where if someone's gone out of the way to send me something or gift me something or a model or whatever, I always make sure it's one of the things I do next on my hobby project. Like, is that like a slight disdain for, I'm going to take something out of your pile of shame and just put it in my pile of shame? I find that to be really ungrateful. So I really do like kind of getting stuck in and getting stuff done. So that's why these guys are suddenly painted straight away after receiving them. And I had such a blast doing it. Robin Hood has obviously been quite a big part of my childhood. Whether it be Kevin Costner's Robin Hood or whether it's been Russell Crowe, I have enjoyed pretty much all of them. Everybody knows that Dastardly Fox is the only true Robin Hood in my opinion. And obviously I'm going in with a lot of new school techniques, lots of contrast, lots of layering, lots of shading. All these kind of things we didn't have previously when we were painting up these miniatures. I don't even know how long ago these were released. Like, the sources for the information on these characters come from White Dwarf 204. They're Merry Men of Bergerac, I can never say that word, and the 5th edition Bretonian Codex. Like, that's such a long time ago. When was the 5th edition of Bretonian army book released? So I just went away and looked it up to find out when the 5th edition of Bretonian was out, and it was 1996. So I was 8 when this model was originally brought out. I'm now 36, so it's been out for quite a long time now. And yeah, there's a lot of characterful models that exist in the Bretonian lore that I'm still on the hunt for. Maybe I'll get my hands on them in the next while. I haven't played a game where Bretonians in quite some time, so maybe this will give me the kick I need to get the models on the table again, and maybe get a couple more units of peasants painted up to get a really nice thematic army going for these guys to be in. Some peasant knights going as well. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. Obviously, you've got to have his big ginger beard and hair. He reminds me of Thorman from Game of Thrones when I was painting up this beard, so that's not a bad thing at all. That's kind of glorious. Really makes him stand out from all those natural tones. Obviously, I went with nothing but natural tones for these guys, just browns and greens. They're definitely going to blend into a nice forest board without too much hassle and just be awesome. I've taken some really nice photos of them with a bit of scenery set up for the end, so you can see what these guys are actually going to look like on a tabletop, and I think it looks pretty cool. People also get confused as to why I attach flock with super glue. It sticks instantly. It gives you a really nice hard seal. Like, it's not going to flake off. I find PVA glue to not kind of last forever, whereas the super glue will. And obviously, as I apply it in nice big thick clumps, it sticks in clumps. And all I do is turn around and like flick the bottom of the base to make the grass stand up a little bit. And it looks really, really nice. It takes absolutely no time to do. But yeah, I've been doing it this way for quite a long time now, and it works. Here is the final 3 characters, all painted up, all based up, all ready to join the rest of my Bretonian forces on the tabletop. And yeah, I can't be happier. So here is, like I said, some of the images of what these guys will look like on a tabletop. I can't thank the person who sent me this enough. Thank you so much for taking the time to dig through your collection, find some old models, get them packaged up, and get them sent over to me to make this video with. Hopefully you think I have done them justice. You are happy to see them painted and added to my collection. As for everyone else, hopefully you enjoyed this video. We had a little bit of break from Old World Wednesday for a little while for various reasons, but we are now back at it in full swing. So please let me know what other content you want to see, whether it's more old school videos like this or more modern, so some more Cathay or whatever. Please do let me know in the comments below.